Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Geminme here. Today we have a special guest, a friend, a realtor, an entrepreneur, Latino, right? A boss. But I'm so glad to have him. His name is Jose Rodriguez. Thank you, Jose, for being here. Thank you for taking time of your day to share your story and to empower our audience. Could you tell us who is Jose?
Thank you for having me on, Catherine. First and foremost, I'm happy to call you a friend, client. I mean, we have a very good relationship, and I'm happy that we cross paths. And I'm happy that we're here now, right? A couple years later down the line, it's amazing to see you, hosting your own show and doing your thing. So, that's cool. My name's Jose Rodriguez. I am a real estate agent, a real estate investor. Started doing that about 5 years ago. Also, I like to box. I've been boxing for 3 years now, and I'm looking forward to potentially getting my first fight soon. And yeah, I mean, came from nothing, was born in the Dominican Republic, came out here when I was 7 years old. And I'm super grateful for my father, who has always had a backbone, worked very hard for his family, and did whatever he could to provide us the opportunity to come here to this country and be able to thrive and make the best out of it. So shout out to him. Shout out to, obviously my mother also as well for taking care of me throughout those years as well. And yeah, I'm happy to be here, and let's get started.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. It's always nice to see, the stories of people who come and migrate here and then they like change their lives, right? They take the opportunity and really, take advantage of it and like turn it around. So it's beautiful to see how you have done that. Thank you for sharing that. So I always ask my speakers to tell us, a time in their life that they had to encounter, a challenge or something that really transformed their life, right? Because I feel like, right, gem in me, right, the gem in us really comes from pressure, right, from adversity, from things that we have to, life, right, surpass, and really through that time is when it really kind of makes that gem, right? The pressure and the transformation really happens. So I would like for you to kind of open up and share a little bit of that to see like what things you had to overcome to get to where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an amazing question. I would say that everybody has some kind of skeletons in their closet, right? Nobody's perfect, and we all have to be able to face the adversity and face the things that are in front of us so that we can overcome them and potentially become the best version of ourselves. For me, I remember when I was 17, right? I wasn't around the right people, grew up not in the best neighborhood. Again, came from a very humble background. So it is what it is. You're in a specific environment, and I was raised very good by my parents. However, sometimes the influence of the street, sometimes the influence of just being out and growing up in certain neighborhoods can get to you, right? It could be the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, right? And I would say that at that point in my life, I wasn't really aware of where I wanted to go. I understood that I was going to be successful. I understood that I was going to make it somehow, but something kind of seemed off, right? Something wasn't adding up. There was an equation that wasn't giving me the proper answer. And I started to look around, and I started to look at the environment that I was in. And it's not so much that the people were bad. It was just that I was surrounded by other people that were also in the streets, doing this, doing that, hustling, just being around that influence, right? And I myself started hustling and started dealing and started just doing this, doing that. And I started to notice that my life started to become more difficult when I was doing that. right? And the reason why I would say that is because I started to become more paranoid. I started to have more intrusive thoughts that I was able to see if I kept going down this path, that it was only going to result with two outcomes, either dead or in jail. Those are the only two outcomes that come from that life. And I'm fortunate enough that I come from a good family, because I believe that that's the reason why I was capable of tapping out of that trance, right? Because I believe that we're all in a specific trance, and sometimes we have to understand what we're experiencing in our lives and what trance we are living, right? What rhythm we are following as we walk through this journey of life. And I was listening to the wrong melody and following the wrong rhythm. And I found myself in a situation where I was able to interrupt the pattern and say, where am I going? Where is this taking me? And then I took a couple steps back and I started to expand the thoughts that I was having and future pace those thoughts. Okay, now I'm thinking about, protecting myself, maybe buying a gun, maybe doing this. Why? Because it's important to understand why. Because I don't think it's bad to, protect yourself and be able to defend yourself, but why? It's all within context, right? And I started to see that the reason why I was thinking about doing that was because the only motivation was to go deeper in that life for me to do that at that point in time. So then I was like, you know what? I don't think this is the right thing for me to do. And I don't think this is going to get me closer to being rich, being able to take care of my family, being able to take care of myself, and being able to establish a life where I can be proud of. I don't think it's going to take me there. So I believe around the time I turned 18, and I also was going through college, and I was speaking to my brother, my middle brother, Kevin, who I'm very close with. And we were talking about maybe him getting me a job or something. He was like, oh, like, mind you, he didn't know anything of this. He had no fucking clue at all. No clue at all. And he was like, oh yeah, maybe I can help you, you get this job. Cause I told him, I was like, yo, like, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to go to college. I want to do something different. I'm thinking about getting into real estate. So it was a big transition, right? And during the time I was still transitioning from that life. So he was like, yeah, I got you with a job. Don't worry about it. And he hooked me up with a job where he was working at. And I was very grateful for it. So the day before I started working at that job, I actually around the same time dropped out of college. And the day before I started working at that job, I remember hanging around with my friends who I'm no longer involved with, right? And they were like, why are you so happy? And I was just hanging out with them and whatnot. And I was like, today's my last day doing this shit. Right? I was like, today's my last day. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, I'm getting a job. I'm changing my life around. And they were like, oh, well, that's good for you, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, nobody said anything bad. Everything was good. And when I transitioned and I got that job, I just kept myself clean forever. Like, it was, listen, it's work, gym, study, sleep. That was my life for the next 2 years. And I remember one of my boys at the time hit me up like 6 months to a year in, right? During this transformation. And they were like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you want to hang out? And I was like, it's been a while. Like, let's see what he's up to. Like, yeah, sure. We'll hang out. So I went and hang out with him. And I remember we were taking a drive and he was like, stop, the car stop, music stop. And he kind of just turned to me and looked at me and was like, so what's going on? You don't want to ride with us anymore? And I'm just like, nah, man, you guys are doing your thing. I'm doing my thing. Like, you guys could keep, if that's what you guys want to do, that's fine. But this is what I'm on. And the reason why I share this story as well is I also want to help other people understand that you are not responsible for people that don't want to change. The only thing that you're responsible for is setting the example and becoming the role model of the people that you are going to inspire to change. And you have to allow those people to
Amen.
see you and see you shine and actually like, okay, like, because if you start to reach your hand down to people that don't want to change and don't want to grow, they're just going to grab your hand and they're going to try to pull you down to their level. So you have to be very, very careful with that. And that was one of the most pivotal moments of my life, because after I got that job, a year and a half later, I got my real estate license. And once I got my real estate license, 6 months later, I went full time. It was, you know, everybody has their trials and tribulations when they're starting off, but you have that mindset, you just keep going. And then fast forward 5 years later, here I am. You know, I own real estate. I'm a developer. My brother and I, we own around $10 million worth of real estate. And I have my own real estate team now. I have 2 agents working under me. And I have my own personal men's group that I teach other men on how to become the best version of themselves with their health, relationships, and wealth, and getting around the right people. So you got to do your best to give back, of course. And I'm at that point where I'm going to still grow, but I'm also going to help as many people as I can on the way. So it's my story, you
Mic
know.
drop. Like that's it. We should finalize right there. You said it all. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I know it's, hard and difficult, and to be vulnerable and really, like you said, show your skeletons of your past and the person that you were. But thanks to that past, you're here where you are now. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I know, well, I follow you on YouTube, so I've seen your content and I congratulate you for all the work you're doing. It's really inspiring, and I feel like, you know, there's not as many, let's say, male figures that really dedicate their work to inspire other males, right? Or to help them out, and I feel like it's needed, like really bad. So I commend you for doing that work. And whoever's listening, there's a male, check him out. I'll show his information in the show notes as well, so you guys can find him. But I really wanted to pick your brain about the different values and beliefs you had to create or shift, right? From, let's say, our cultures, right? Our mindset from before, and like how that had to change to a whole totally different person now to be able to sustain the lifestyle you're living, right? So tell me, show me how that looks like a little bit.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And my lifestyle changed dramatically because of, the first thing that I'll say is habits. Habits are key. You know, you have to be able to develop the proper habits, because the reason why you're in the position that you're in today and you have all the things that you have today are because of your habits. It's because who you've been, right? I've heard it from, I think his name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He mentioned something about your personal reality is created by your personality, you
Mm,
know. And who I was being then, that Jose that was 17 years old, on the street, confused, didn't really know what he was doing, didn't really know where he was going. My personality at the time, I could say that I was probably more arrogant. I probably had an undeserved ego, and I was doing things maybe because of the perception that I wanted to create at the time, based on possibly the music that I was listening to, the people that I was hanging around, and all of these things influence you, right? So the next thing that I'll say, aside from habits, is once you start to develop the proper habits, you're going to continue to influence your subconscious mind to create a different reality. Because now when I wake up, I do my meditation. I take my cold shower, I do a workout, I journal, and I take care of myself first because I consider myself my first client, right? And some people may think that that's bullshit. Some people may think that that works. And what I could say is you got to do whatever works for you. Some people may go on walks. Cool. Some people, who knows, may listen to a specific music or listen to a specific beat or whatever. Everybody has their system. Everybody has their thing, but make sure that it works for you. Now, what that allowed me to do was it allowed me to silence my mind, and it allowed me to distinguish myself from all the limiting beliefs that I had circulating throughout my thoughts that I wasn't aware of, right? And as I was eradicating all these limited beliefs, I've increasingly grew. I grew in my life in every single spectrum, right? I became more successful. I made more money. I was more outgoing. Why? Well, it's as simple as this. I'll give you guys an example, right? Let's say you grow up and you're at a grocery store and there's a stranger that comes in and tries to talk to you, and you're a kid and you start talking to that stranger, and then your father comes and yells at you. What are you doing? Didn't I tell you not to talk to strangers? Stop talking to strangers. You're coming, like, let's go. And then you get in trouble and it traumatizes you as a kid. And then you grow up and you want to have a sales job, right? You want to go for a sales position. And it's time for you to pick up the phone and talk to strangers. And then you're like,
Oh no.
I don't know if I should pick up this phone. Like, I don't know. Jose, why aren't you calling? I don't know. I don't know why. Like, I just can't. I just can't. And it's the same thing with guys. Like, you know, a lot of the times I tell guys, like, even when they see that girl they want to go talk to, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I can't talk to her. Walk up to her, then turn around. They're doing all these fidgeting, all these movements. They're like, why can't? And it's like, when you look at it from an objective point of view, this person is in their mind. They're not even doing anything. It's just all happening here. And everything that's happening here, it's influencing you towards what's happening out there. So I started to realize that, and journaling has been one of my biggest assets, because as I self-reflect and I write down my thoughts, I write down my moods, I write down my strengths, I write down my weaknesses, I write down my patterns, I write down certain things that I could have even done better. I self-criticize myself for certain things, and I write down, okay, like I could have improved maybe this speech. I may even watch this podcast back and say, okay, maybe I could have said this better. Maybe I could have said that better. Maybe I could have communicated from this angle. Oh, this would have maybe communicated more of the emotion that I was feeling towards this part of my life. And nobody's perfect. Again, I'm not saying to go crazy, but what I am saying is I'm a very observant person, especially towards myself. And I like to be able to improve. You know, I like to self-reflect a lot. I like to self-analyze a lot. And that was one of the biggest things for me. So, like, give you another example. When I moved out of my parents' house, it was something that I wanted to do because I wanted to isolate myself from all the things that I didn't have control over in my environment. I could be sleeping and somebody could be talking about something that could be influencing me. I could be listening to a song or something that somebody else is putting on, or somebody's complaining about this, somebody's complaining about that, and you just morph into the environment that you're in. So it could be very difficult for you to improve and grow. I'm investing this money in going to this seminar and flying here and flying there, and then I'm coming home and it's like, I feel like I could be doing better. Like, why am I not growing as much as possible? And this is the thing. It's hard to be able to see outside of these patterns, because when you see you're living here, right? But when you take a step back and you're like, okay, this is something that I have no control over, and the only way that I can have control over this way of thinking and my patterns of behaving is by me isolating myself and starting from scratch. So when I moved out, it was just, I got home and it was just me, and I got to control my environment. And the books that I read, really entered my mind. The music that I listened to, I started to go on a diet, right? Because people, when they think about diet, they just think about food. No, you have to also go on a mental diet. Sometimes you got to fast from certain things that you watch, certain things that you see. I'm not saying not to entertain yourself, but you got to be conscious of how you're entertaining yourself and what's being said, and what narrative is playing out in front of you and what you're listening to, because these music, and that's the thing, like, listen, I don't mean to get sidetracked, but there's a lot of music out there that could be saying all the things that are against your principle, but because it sounds good in the right melody, you could be dancing to it. Now you're dancing to it, now you're accepting it. Now you're accepting it. All of that is going in. And that could possibly be making people confused as to what career to choose, what to wear, how to speak. All of these things morph your
That's so
personality.
true. So true.
So, not to go on for too long, but that a lot of that
No, that's a good point.
I
That's
had
really
to peel back the layer of the onion and just question everything. And that's exactly what I did. I questioned everything, and I just sat with myself, went out into the world, got out of my comfort zone, because it's the yin and yang, right? You can't spend too much time by yourself. You also have to go out into the world and step out of your comfort zone, right? Speak to people, be social, right? That's also another thing, because a lot of men also are having trouble with that. Everybody's on the internet now, everybody's online, and they're afraid of having a regular conversation with somebody. So what I would say is something big that I can give, a big advice that I can give anybody that wants to change, is find out where your fears are, go there and conquer them. Whatever your fears are, whatever it is that you feel that feeling internally where it you're either nervous or you get the butterflies. Like, even for me as a fighter, right? Because I'm a boxer, when I step into that ring and there's this other fighter that I'm gonna be boxing that I've never seen before, never boxed before, it's nervous. Everybody is a little bit afraid when they get in the ring. But the fact is that you don't let that stop you. That's the point. You don't let that stop you. You go in anyways, you face your fears, and then you start to get used to facing your fears. And you start to become comfortable with that, right? And it's not just a concept when you're applying it, because you can find some version of what I'm saying somewhere in the internet, right? But it's not just a concept. When you apply it and you internalize it, it becomes a part of you. And now when you're faced with that other adversity, you're going to experience a similar feeling, because feelings don't feel very different. We can only experience a range of feelings. And for me, where I found the most amount of growth is going towards that feeling that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, conquering it, and then being at the top of the mountain and say, okay, I no longer feel this way because I faced my fears. And it could be fearful for that kid, for Jose at 17, to get out of that environment, because he may be thinking, oh, like, that girl that I'm talking to that likes guys that are into this life, what is she going to think about a man like me that is now turning his life around? And is she going to think that I'm some softy? Is she going to think that I'm some, or what about my boys? Are they going to think that I changed, that I'm soft now, or that whatever triggers you? Everybody can have a complete different internal dialogue, but you have to find out what that is and you have to change it.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's actually one of the questions I was going to ask you, like what advice you would give your younger self. So you already did that. You're ahead of me already. Thank you for that. I know like one of your last videos talked about standards, and I feel like I wanted to pick your brain about that. You touched on it a little. But like what impact does standards have in your life right now?
It's a dramatic difference, right? It's a dramatic difference, and we all have to have standards, and we all have to have boundaries, right? Something that I like to say a lot is, what you communicate to the world is going to attract something, and it's also going to repel something simultaneously. And I feel like people these days, they're not okay with the repelling, They want to just attract and not make anybody upset. They try to appease everybody. And you're not going to be able to live a happy and fulfilled life because you're never going to be your authentic self. You're going to be doing this thing for this person and this thing for this other person. Meanwhile, you don't really vibe with this person, but you're just trying to, save face or whatever. And I just don't agree with that. So there was actually a pivotal moment of mine when I want to say it wasn't too long ago. It was like maybe 3 years ago. There was a year or 2 years that I spent on just completely just expressing myself, regardless of how anybody would perceive me. I didn't care. I was just putting myself out there. I said whatever was on my mind. And I don't recommend everybody to do this, but I was just saying, I was doing my best to just prove a point to myself. What I will say is now that I'm a little bit older, I will say that you have to understand all the variables, because when you're saying something, you have to understand that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be listening to your message. And for me, there was that moment in my life where I was just saying what I was about. I was like, listen, this is me. If you don't like it, I don't even want to talk to you. But then it comes down to that point, for example, where maybe somebody wants to sell their house, but they don't have maybe some beliefs that I have, right? And it could be household beliefs, right? Like how I want to run my relationship, or how I want to be, how I want to run the family, right? Or how I want to be in the family. They may have different beliefs as how they are with their family. And I'm there to sell their house. So I'm not there to tell them or teach them on family values or traditions or anything like that. I'm here to help them sell their house. So being able to distinguish the two is something that I was capable of doing down the line. But to keep everything in one piece, I would say that there was that time in my life where I was just saying, like, this is what I'm about. I don't care if you don't like it. You could either stay or you could either leave. And I'm still relatively to that point, but I'm a little bit more empathetic to the people that don't yet understand, right? Like maybe they're not there yet. Maybe they haven't had the experiences that I've had. Maybe they come from a different background. Maybe they're doing their best to get to the same conclusion that I'm getting to. However, their experiences molded them a little bit differently, and that's okay. However, I'm going to judge my life and my reality based on what I've been through, based on my experiences, based on what I learned. And I'm okay and I'm open to having an intellectual conversation with somebody else, right, that has an opposing viewpoint. However, what I'm not going to do is get emotional, get nasty with somebody that is maybe has a different perspective. Because if we can't communicate from a perspective where it's ultimately going to be constructive, I don't want to talk to you at all. So I'm very, on my standards. Like, that's my standard. This is what I'm about. These are my beliefs. Cool. However, I would definitely be open to having a conversation with somebody that believes differently, as long as we're not personally attacking each other and it's an intellectual conversation where we both get to learn and possibly improve our own systems, right? So
I love that. I really do. I feel like, everyone is passionate about their own beliefs, right? But being able to have a healthy conversation, right, with others who have different beliefs and respecting that, like that's something that not everybody's able to do. Um, and it's important, right? Because that's how people learn, right? People have different beliefs maybe because they don't have all the bigger picture, right? They don't know the other side of the story, and you can probably genuinely encourage the better side. So I feel like that's very strong, especially when you're trying to empower other people, and the work that you're doing is very difficult, right? Because people have their own mindset, and trying to change, a lot of people don't want to change, right? They don't want to
yeah,
change what they're doing. That's hard. That's hard. That's difficult. Your feelings is like healing, for example, right? Healing your traumas, healing your relationships. Like you said, people want to attract relationships, but you don't want to let go of relationships. That's hard. So being able to do that also is and wanting better for yourself. Like throughout this journey, I want to mention this because I'm sure you also did some work on this in order to like, move forward and succeed and really meet your goals. You have to have a sense of self-worth, right?
Right.
To heal, to believe, right, that you are worth, this conversation. You are worth the relationships you have. You are worth to be a realtor and to have all these properties, right? And so that kind of segues into my next question. That is, how have you been able to transition or transform really your mindset towards money, towards wealth? Like, how did that look like? Because I feel like, especially in our Hispanic communities, wealth and money are like is a topic that is rarely like, oh, I want it, but how can I get it? Or like, people have
Yeah.
to do really bad things to get it. Like, what is your 2 cents about that?
Yeah. So, something that'll actually go hand in hand with that. And I want to go ahead and give something specific regarding like my standards and my values, right? And I'll talk about it because I'm in the line of also, working very closely with men and helping them as well. But I'll talk about what has helped me, right? So for example, I believe that a man should be hardworking. A man should, you know, take care of his family. You know, a man should do the best that he possibly can to be as resourceful, as connected, as attractive, as intelligent as he possibly could be. And it goes the same for women. Now, what I can say about men is that for the most part, they always have the burden of performance, right? You look at who build the roads, you look at who build the buildings, who do the hard jobs of like just, and not saying that women don't do hard jobs, but I'm just looking at all the things that a man does. Like when somebody has a problem and the power goes out and there's somebody getting up in that transformer, it's usually a man, right? And the reason why I share that is because if men don't want to do these jobs and are getting softer throughout the days and are becoming more fearful, less courage, and less of the values that makes a man, in my opinion, then the women are going to have to step up to the plate and have to balance that out. And I believe that that's where we are right now because a lot of men don't want to work. A lot of men don't want to be strong. A lot of men don't want to have the courage to go out there and do something difficult. Uh, they want to be sheltered. And what my work consists of is, again, doing the things that are hard so that you can build your character, you can build your fortitude, you can build your grit, and you can build your mindset, right? Because everybody wants to have a strong mindset, but you don't have a strong mindset by just sitting there. You have to actually do things that are hard. So those are the things that I work on vigorously, right? So when I wake up every single day and the alarm goes off and it's 4 a.m. and I have a thought in my head of like, oh, Jose, you should sleep in. It's like, yeah, well, that would be very selfish of me to do that. Whether I have kids now or not, right? Down the line, I'm going to have a family. And down the line, I know that my family is going to depend on me. And I work with my brother. My brother and I, we both live here and we're just grinding, competing against each other in a healthy way. And if he's up walking around at 3:55 getting ready and I'm over here laying down, I'm not going to feel good about myself, right? And we talk about, for example, depression, right? And guys being in a situation where they have a mindset that is debilitating and keeps them from achieving their goals, keeps them from having that self-worth that you're speaking about. And it all goes back to the habits, because the reason why they're feeling that way is a natural feeling. And that's the thing. Like, people think that I shouldn't feel like this. And I challenge that. And I say, you know what? Maybe you should, but I don't think you should stay there. I think you should find out why. And I think you should change it. Right. So, for example, if you've been eating unhealthy foods, if you haven't been exercising, if you've been sleeping in all the time and not being clean, not being organized, your car's a mess, you dress bummy every time you go out, that's going to reflect on your mindset. That's going to reflect on your health. And you're going to be at a lower vibration. So that's why you feel like that. So what's the solution? The solution is get in action, right? And it could start with very small steps, because some guys have a more critical condition than others based on how long it's been, right? And for some guys, it could be something starting out with something small, like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym starting, every day from now on. That's the one promise that I'm going to keep myself. I don't care what else I do for the next 30 days. I'm going to go to the gym. And regardless of the diet, it doesn't matter. We're not there yet. Just go to the gym for 30 days. Cool. Okay. Now I built that habit of going to the gym for 30 days. Okay. Now these next 30 days, I'm only going to eat 2,500 calories for these next 30 days. And I'm still going to go to the gym every day. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to the gym every day, and now I'm only eating 2,500 calories. Okay, great. Now after those 30 days, I start to see a difference in my physiology, because now I've been going to the gym every day for 60 days, and I've been on this diet for 30 days. And now I'm starting to feel a little bit better, not just because of the things that I'm doing, but because I was capable of keeping my word to myself. And because I was capable of keeping my word to myself, I now trust myself to say, you know what? I'm going to go and get my real estate license, and believe it. And believe that I could do it. Why? Because I was able to go to the gym for 30 days, because I was able to stay on this diet for another 30 days. So that you have to start constructing that credibility with yourself first. And wherever it is that you are, meet yourself there. Because a lot of the times when guys get too far on this side, where they're just depressed and they feel upset and they feel sad and they feel like a loser and they feel like nobody loves them and all these different things, is because they've been putting something off and they've been lying to themselves for way too long. The New Year's come, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and nothing changes, right? So the best thing that you can do is you can start building that self-credibility with yourself by keeping your word. And again, it doesn't have to be the gym 30 days. I just used that, but that's a good place to start. It could be as little as journaling for 30 days, right? Meditating for 30 days, going on a walk for 30 days without your phone for 45 minutes outside. It could be anything, but if you commit to it and you do it, man, that's going to change your life, because now you're going to start to believe in yourself a lot more.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I'm taking notes. All right. So this has been so impactful, and I'm so grateful that we've had this conversation. Something that I wanted you to share with us is what resources, like I know you mentioned books earlier, and I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what books or resources have you used to kind of keep you on track, developing and growing?
Yeah, there's a lot of books. It's a lot of books.
A couple.
About, okay, I'll give you guys a couple. About mindset. What's that David Goggins book? I'm going to find it right now.
Sure.
Can't Hurt Me. That's
Can't.
what it's called. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. Read that book. That's going to help you with your mindset. A book that's going to help you with relationships is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That book is going to help you with relationships. I'll give you guys another book that'll help you with relationships as well, is Crucial Conversations. That's going to help you manage conversations that could be heated, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your boss. That book is going to help you out a lot. And then in regards to wealth, I mean, everybody knows Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's kind of what, started it all for me, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And yeah, I mean, besides that, I mean, for wealth, I've actually just sought out just my mentors, the guys that were in the business doing it, and just learn from them. But that would be a book that you can read. And obviously the relationship books and the mindset books are going to just help you with everything as well. So Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I wanted to ask you a last question. Would that be? Hmm. What do you want to be remembered for when you leave this earth?
That's a great question. It's a great question. I want to be remembered for the man that stepped up to the plate where everybody was afraid to, and was willing to walk the path least traveled because he knew it was right, and was capable of leading his people into a more abundant and fulfilled life.
I love that. Thank you. I wanted to give you a chance to promote. I know you're a realtor, you're like a life coach, kind of, right? So I wanted you to share your services and see how, our audience could reach you or how could they reach your services.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that, Catherine. So my Instagram is jrod_845. If you ever want to reach out to me, if you have any questions about anything, hit me up on the Instagram. And I also have a YouTube channel you can find on my bio. I believe I have the link on my IG as well. And then if you're looking to learn more about what it is that I do, I have a private network called the Built from Pain Network. The reason behind the name Built from Pain is because, again, of what I just talked about. I believe that you have to be able to do the hard stuff and you have to go through the pain and struggle to be able to kill that old version of yourself that no longer is here to serve you, so that you can now manifest that higher version of yourself and be able to mold yourself into the person that you want to be. So reach out to me on Instagram, jrod_845. There's also a couple of other free products that I have, just for anybody that would find it beneficial. And any way that I can help, hit me up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jose, for being here. Thank you all for listening and have an amazing evening.
Thank you, Catherine.